Hello world, welcome back to Power Squared. Today we're going to be talking about setting up your first Power Apps code app. Charles, what is a Power Apps code app?
A code app is basically like a traditional website or web application built from raw code, and then you publish it through Power Apps. So Microsoft will host it within the Power Platform ecosystem, but you've built it outside of that with Procode, which sounds really scary, but it's not actually that scary, is it, Josh?
No, it's not. Once you know what to do, and we're going to help you every step of the way to get this set up. We're going to teach you some really cool principles and hopefully sprinkle some magic on this as well as we go through the series. Definitely stay tuned for that. But you might be wondering, why code apps? Some things that come to mind for me is the fact it's within the Power Platform ecosystem. So we get that intra authentication and authorization already built for us. Also, you get access to Power Platform data sources and connectors, which you can call directly within your code app. And you can publish these apps really easily as well, along with a whole bunch of other things. Charles, is there anything that you want to call out in specific as to why for code apps?
I'm going to take us back to the beginning of our journey with Power Squared, which is governance. So you get all of the goodness of governance, like the data policies, the infrastructure, the security roles. You can have all of it. First things first, we're going to go into prerequisites. And I'm going to say the prerequisite for the viewer watching is nothing. You can be at the absolute most basic beginner level, not understanding anything about JavaScript. It's absolutely fine. Doesn't matter what your technical level is, you can follow this video. So now the actual prerequisites. So as we scroll down in the documentation, we get to those. So there are a few things that you need to set up in order to get up and running. So the very first thing is Visual Studio Code, which I will show here, which is code.visualstudio.com. You just download it for whichever operating system you're on and install it. Visual Studio Code is an editor, essentially. It's a code editor, but it's a code editor that is developing more and more over time. Nowadays, it has a lot of functionality where you can install extensions, you can have AI chat in it. Microsoft are really pushing it now as an AI code editor. And we'll come to that point later with some really cool stuff. Node.js is something else that you need to install. Now, Node.js is all about being able to install packages from the internet. So these are just packages of code that can help you get started with different bits and pieces. You don't really need to know much more than that on it. The next prerequisite, once you've got Node.js installed, and Node.js the install is as simple as Visual Studio Code, is potentially Git, but you don't necessarily need that for this. So I'd say you could leave that off for now. That's maybe going to make things more complicated. Only install it if you know what you're doing with that. We can ignore that for now. And the Power App CLI is another part of it. So the Power App CLI stands for Command Line Interface. It's a way to talk to Power Platform writing in your terminal, so writing code in your terminal. And through that, you can do numerous different things. And the reason why you want the Power Platform CLI, or PAC CLI as it's called, is you want to be able to tell Power Platform, here's my app, please can you put it into this environment, and do other tasks like that. You can connect to environments and that kind of thing. So to install the Microsoft Power Platform CLI, there are a few different ways that you can do it. The simplest way would be to install it through the Visual Studio Code extension. So that means that we already have Visual Studio Code installed, so we don't need to install this separately. We can just go straight into Visual Studio Code. So now we're in Visual Studio Code. Your version might not look exactly the same as mine. It might have opened up in light mode. You can have light mode or dark mode. You might have different panels and windows that have opened to what I've got here. For example, you'll probably have, say, the chat window open by default, which is where you can start talking with agents like GitHub Copilot. We're not going to worry about that for now. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our terminal. Now, to view the terminal, you can go up here and you can go to New Terminal, or you can hit Control-Shift and then whatever that little mark is. I always forget the name of that one, but it's usually in the top left-hand corner of your keyboard. So then you get your terminal open. And when we're talking about using something like the PAC CLI, this is where you can communicate with the PAC CLI. But you can also get extensions within VS Code, and it mentioned extensions before. So on the left-hand side here, we've got extensions. And again, you've got a keyboard shortcut for this. So as you get more and more used to these things, you can try to start remembering the keyboard shortcuts, and it can help you with your efficiency. So let's open up extensions, and then you can see that I've already got some installed. I've got some that are recommended to me that I haven't installed yet. And if we search in there for, say, Power, or maybe Power Platform, then we get some more records in here like Power Platform Tools. So if I click on Power Platform Tools, and I'll just close my terminal for now, you can see that installing this extension will also make the latest Power Platform CLI available in your VS Code terminal. So this is what you want to install. For me, you can see I've already installed it. So it says uninstall. If you haven't installed it, it will say install there. And you can also install it from the left-hand side here. So once you've got that installed, you've then got Pack CLI available to you. And what that means is, and it might ask you to restart your extensions. It might ask you to restart VS Code in order for it to be up and running. Just follow whatever it's asking you to do. But ultimately, you will then, in your sidebar here, you'll have Power Platform. So there's an icon for it there. And when you click on that, you'll then have these auth profiles. And with these, you can click on the plus, and then you can create a new auth profile. So this is essentially you just sign into your Microsoft tenant. It's what you'll be used to already. And where you see I've got a star against this one, that means that this is the one that I've selected. And you can choose different ones here. You can delete them from here. All of this can be done through the Pack CLI, so you can type out terminal commands for it, but this is an easy interface to do it. So it's much nicer, much easier to work with. Once we've selected our tenant, in the bottom here, you can see environments and solutions. So within here, we can choose an environment. Like, let's choose my Code Apps one. That makes sense, right? So I click on select there, and then you'll see that we've got this blue bar spinning. Hopefully you'll see that. And what that's doing is that's selecting our environment for us. And when it's selected, it just stops spinning. It doesn't give you any notification, but it is selected. And there are ways of checking which ones are selected. So in our terminal, one thing that we can do is we can type pack help, and then here it will tell us all the different commands that we can use. So then from here, we will have one to find out which environment we're in. We can type in pack env who, and then we'll find out which environment we're in. So there we go. So this is one point where when we went to introduce how you should create environments in a previous video, we were saying that you should set your org URL to something that's recognizable. This is a very good reason why you'd set it to something recognizable. I haven't for this one, so it just says org309. So I'm left thinking, well, is that the one that I wanted? I need to double check in the admin center. If you'd set it properly, then you'd know straight away, yeah, this is the right one for me. This is what I want to use. But essentially what we've done now is we've got VS Code up and running. We've done our prerequisites. We've got the Pack CLI up and running. We've got our extension so we can easily connect to different environments. We've got pretty much everything good to go on this front. Now that we've completed our prerequisites at the beginning part, the installation of all the tools, there's one final thing that we need to just double check, and that's that we can use Code Apps on our Power Platform environment. So what this means is that you go into the Power Platform Admin Center, you find the environment that you're going to work with. So we're working with Code Apps. You go to Settings, then you open up Product and go to Features, and then you scroll down a bit, or potentially you could search for it, but you scroll down a bit, and then where you've got the Power Apps component framework for Canvas apps, just below that, you've got Power Apps Code Apps. So they're bundled in together because they're quite similar things. So just make sure that that's enabled and then save, and then that will allow you to use Code Apps on that environment.
Yeah, so we've done our prerequisites. We've set up VS Code, nodes, and Pack CLI. Now what? Let's jump into actually building the app, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So the simplest way to do this at the moment is, again, in the docs, we've got create a code app from scratch. And I think this is the nicest way to do it at the moment. So you go to that in the documentation. The documentation is regularly being updated because this is brand new technology. So it's worthwhile you double checking that the instructions are still the same, making sure that you follow what the current guidance is. But they're pretty straightforward. So we've got these steps here where we're talking about opening a new terminal. So you could open up something like PowerShell on your computer, that kind of thing. But you have VS Code, so you don't really need to do that. So if we copy this, in fact, I'm not going to copy the My App because we're not going to call it My App. So we copy this line. Okay, so now that we're in VS Code again, I've got the terminal open here, and I can paste in that code that they gave us. But if I do that, what I need to bear in mind is that I'm currently at my C drive users child directory. Do I really want that to go into there? And the answer is actually no, I don't want that to go into there. So what I can do is I can do CD, which stands for change directory, and then C colon / and then that will take me to my C drive. And then in my C drive, I actually have a code folder. So I always put all of my code in the code folder. So now I'm happy with where it's going to go. It's going to go in my C drive code folder. And then I can paste that in. And then we need to give our app a name. Josh, what should we call it?
Hello world.
Okay. Hello world. And then when I press enter, what this is going to do is it's going to install that template, that Vite template that Microsoft have provided from GitHub, just like that. Simple as that. So now that we've got our Hello World installed, we can change our directory to Hello World. And now we're in it. So now we're back in the documentation. We've done step number 1. So step number 2 is saying that it wants us to authenticate the Power Platform CLI against our Power Platform tenant and select our environment. But if you remember, we'd already done that before in VS Code. So we don't need to worry about that. The next thing that it's telling us to do is run a code that says npm install. So we installed Node.js earlier. npm install is using Node, and it's using Node's package manager to then install all of the dependencies from the package that we got from Microsoft. So what we'll do is we'll do the npm install, and then we'll do the next piece of code, which is pack code init, which is basically the Power Platform CLI saying that it's a code app and we want to initialize it, and then to give it a display name. Because of course, when we're in Power Apps, all of the apps have display names. So it's not going to be hello-world, but it will have a proper name, hello space world. So now that we're back in VS Code, we can do npm install, but you can actually just do npm I, which is just an alias for install. So you don't need to do the full thing. And then what that's going to do is that's going to run through the folders and the files that we've got there and install all of the packages that we need. So let's have a look at what it's doing while it's running through that. So we've got the Explorer in the top left here. And then here, we don't actually have the folder open yet. So we need to open that folder. So here's a quick tip for everyone. You don't actually need to click on open folder, but you can type in code dot and it will open your current folder in VS Code. So let's do that. So this is everything that we've set up so far. The next thing we need to do is we need to initialize this as a code apps Power App. So we need to do pack code init, which is the Power Platform CLI code initialization, provide our display name, for which we're going to call it Hello World.
Hello world.
From Power Squared.
Yeah.
And now that we put that in there, we press enter, and then that will actually initialize our app. So it's connecting to the tenant. It's creating this power.config.json for us. That's initialized our app. Now what we can do is we can do npm run dev, which is the Node package manager saying run it for development. And then we've got 2 different URLs that we can use here. A nice tip for everyone here is we can open these up in VS Code. So we've got this simple browser that we can use here. And there's our app. So that's our Vite React app, and we can click on the count and it works. So that's really nice. If we wanted to open it up in Power Apps, we can't do that in this browser in VS Code because we need to be logged in. So now I've pasted it into a browser window where I'm logged in and we get the same thing. However, now it's in the context of Power Apps. So this is actually being loaded within Power Apps. So we can see how it's going to run within Power Apps. And it says to us at the top, your app is running in local mode. So it's running locally, but within Power Apps.
That was really easy to set up. You know, once the prereqs are installed, it's just a few lines of on the terminal and that's it running. So not scary to set up and run, and to get a hello world type thing up and running really quick and easy, and you know, no more difficult than clicking a few buttons in Power Apps to create a canvas app or a model driven app, in my opinion. So really good and interesting to see how we set that up. And in our next video, we're going to show you how you can do more than just hello world with this. Actually do some real world coding to actually create something meaningful, and I'm really looking forward to showing you some tips and tricks and some sprinkle some magic in there, which I'm looking forward to showing as well. So do like and subscribe if you found this video helpful. If you have any comments, do leave them in the comment box below. But until next time, goodbye.